Welcome to Culture Alchemy, where we do a deep dive into film, TV, music, and the stories and trends lighting up the group chat. We'll discuss what it means, why it matters, and how it shapes us. I'm Antoinette.
And I'm Andrew. Each week we've got pop culture's hottest takes served fresh. We're turning pop culture into pure gold. This is Culture Alchemy.
Hey everybody. Hey Andrew. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm all right. And I can't believe it, but we're already at episode 15. Yay us. Thank you all for listening if you're still with us. Here's to many more episodes. But before we go ahead, we're going to actually go back in time to episode 9.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember way back when, that was our first Hot Off the Pod episode, and we were talking about many things. But among those things, we were also talking about the movie The Materialist. So I had just finished, I think I was a few hours out of the theater when we recorded that episode. And so we were chopping it up about my reaction to the movie and also some of the things that we've been hearing about the movie as well. So I know you haven't seen it yet. However, I'm sure you've heard some of the conversation around The Materialist. So what are you hearing?
Yeah, I've heard the conversation about it. I was going to watch it because it's now on demand. So our viewers and listeners can rent it on demand or own it on demand. I wasn't sure if it would be worth the price. Currently, speaking of economics, and the price to rent it, I think, is like $21, and to own it's like $25. But I do want to see it for sure, and I've heard some of the conversations that the focus of the film is on those economics of dating, which I think would be a great topic to unpack in this episode.
Oh, most definitely. And if anything, I have more thoughts on it now because I've been able to sit with it and like marinate on it and also hear some of the things that you've said, that we've had conversations about, and that others have also shared with me as well. Now, I liked this movie. Let me just get that out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I did like this movie. I agree with you, though. The $25 to own it, I'm not sure. In fact, I think I advise you not to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think if you're going to pay that kind of money, you might as well go sit in a nice theater and experience the communal, reaction, because I think part of what's drawing people to this movie now, and in a way, it's interesting because people might be going to hate watch this thing. I just realized that might be actually what's happening too, that it's getting other views based on that. Yeah. But I would rather be in a theater and see how people are reacting just because of the conversation around it. But I think solid movie when it's streaming, like absolutely I'll check it out again because I'll only appreciate it more probably the second time. But yeah, no, the $25, keep your money and either invest it in going to the movies to watch it with other people, or maybe take a date, because that could be an interesting way to find out how they feel about the topic we're going to dive into tonight, because that would be a great conversation to have with them about the economics of dating.
And before we move on from the film, I heard there's a conversation around one particular scene, which is a very important scene in the film, where Dakota Johnson, her character's name is Lucy. She meets Harry, who's played by Pedro Pascal, the hot Pedro Pascal right now, who has so many movies at the box office. And she orders, they're at a wedding in this scene. I think they're at a wedding, and she orders a Coke and beer for a drink. So people are talking about that is a very interesting choice. That's a interesting choice for a drink. And the person who brings her this drink is Chris Evans, whose character name is John, who they used to date.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it. That's basically it. And a lot can be shown from that particular scene because, as you said, you've got Dakota Johnson's character, Lucy, beautiful, smart, driven, career woman at the top of her game as a matchmaker. She's at this event, this wedding, meets Pedro Pascal, and then runs into her ex as well, as you said, serving her the Coke I can't remember. Was it Coke and beer?
It was Coke and beer.
Was that
Yeah,
it?
apparently
Okay.
it's a drink common in Germany. It's called a diesel
Ah,
in Germany, and
I didn't know that.
they don't reference it in the movie, but I was reading about it. The director, her name is Celine Song. She wanted this scene to.
Hmm.
This is a very important scene to her. She wanted to kind of represent that. She presents her she presents herself to Peter Pascal as her authentic self, and this is the drink she orders. And Chris Evans' character, whose name is John, he brings her the drink, and he knows her drink already. So it's that nostalgia feeling of someone knowing what your drink is, and she's living between these two realities now.
Mm.
There's an interesting, how she's navigating these two different realities at the same time. Yeah, that's
That is interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. And like, thanks for sharing that little tidbit from the director's cut because I do see that. Like as you explained it, I was actually thinking about there's so much that can be seen from that scene. Like for example, what you just said, the idea that she's Chris Evans' character knows her drink.
yeah.
That's interesting. So immediately we know, okay, they're familiar. So there's a lot. She's doing a lot of lifting with that scene, and that's what I like about this director.
Oh,
She's very good at those little moments, those little things in the movie that give you a lot of character development or give you a background of the character or the exposition. She
yeah.
doesn't have to say it. It's like, okay, now I get that these two are familiar with each other, and I also think and whether she intended this or not, I don't know. But since you just shared that that's a German drink, it's very popular. It's like maybe even one might say like a commoner's drink.
I would like
Like
to try it now. I would like to try it.
yeah, I know I've seen something like this. Recently was out in Toronto where it was like soda and beer. I know we have different versions of this in other cultures, but
Yeah.
it's a very common drink. Beer is a common drink. Coke or soda, whatever, is a common drink. So it's interesting because Lucy's at this high end upscale wedding. I mean, these are multimillionaire billionaires in the in the vicinity, and they're
Hmm.
not drinking beer and Coke. So the fact that she ordered that also tells me okay, so this is a woman who maybe her drink will tell me a lot about her. It's not that she's ordering like a complicated cocktail or a martini straight up. She's ordering beer and Coke. You couldn't get two more like commoner type drinks together,
Exactly. Exactly.
right? Yeah, so there's a class right in her cup, right? So that's really interesting, which I hadn't really thought about, but surely is there for many reasons, including what the one you mentioned. And I think for us to talk about this movie, as you said, there's a couple of things maybe people who haven't seen it might need to know. One, yes, it's Celine Song is the director, Canadian. She herself used to be a matchmaker.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of the things that she puts in this movie, which I believe is really, I think it's her genuine, heartfelt commentary on modern dating and the commodification of dating.
Yeah.
Um, but she's coming at it from an insider's perspective, right? And I also think that Celine Song will be familiar to some of our listeners and viewers because she is the Academy Award nominated director of Past Lives. So if anyone has seen that, you kind of know her style. A lot of very I would say straight to the point kind of dialogue,
Hmm.
maybe more so in this movie. But one of the things that came up when I was listening to people talk about why they didn't like it is again her choice at the end. So spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear anything about what happens at the end, please see yourself out.
Hmm.
But for those who want to stick around, okay, the main thing here that became such a part of the backlash was her choice to choose John, who is the poor ex, right? And I think that's what we're going to talk a bit about today. Like, how
Hmm.
realistic was that choice? And also about dating in general. As you said, Andrew, like the economics of dating are
Hmm.
things that have been discussed widely around this movie. So, where do you want to start? Where should we dive in, Drew?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, she's torn between Pedro Pascal, who's wealthy and and that broke Chris Evans in this film, right? Throughout the film, Lucy also suggests that only a wealthy man can make a woman feel valuable. So that's
Mm.
what she suggests throughout the movie. And it was persistent poverty that split up Lucy and John in the past. And so she ends up choosing him in the
Hmm.
end, spoiler alert. But my question is, who would you pick?
Okay. So how should I say this? Am I Antoinette in the movie in Lucy's position? So Lucy's a matchmaker who makes 80 grand a year, has 5 years of history with
Yeah,
John, so Chris Evans' character, and just met Pedro Pascal's character, who
yeah.
is loaded and lives in a $12 million penthouse in New York City, an impossibly beautiful penthouse. So, is it just the same situation? So, I'm me in that movie, and I only have the information that I have about those characters based on the background. So,
Yeah,
5 year ex
based on the background in the
newbie,
movie, what you see based on that decision, and also that's a good point you brought up. In the movie, does she live beyond her lifestyle? Because it is mentioned that she makes 80,000 a year as a matchmaker,
right?
and that's a point at the end of the film too, when she gets a new job, gets a higher paying job at the end. So is it a point made during the film that like she can't maintain this lifestyle? Is that at any point communicated or?
Hmm. No, I
Oh,
don't think so. I don't think it's kind of like anybody who's ever watched like Sex in the City. You
yeah.
have this person can't be making that much money off of her columns. How is
It's
she living like this lavish
it's
lifestyle?
like
So
part of the
it's kind of
fantasy.
that.
It's part of the fantasy,
It's
right?
part
Like
of the fantasy.
when you look at rom coms like Pretty Woman, so Julia
Hmm.
Roberts is not making any money in that. Vivian is not making any money in that film, but she goes with the rich Richard Gere. And then when you look at You Got Mail, Meg Ryan, she works
Hmm.
at a used bookstore. She can't be making that much money, but then she ends up with Tom Hanks, who is pretty well off, it seems. They don't address specific numbers, but he works for a big corporate bookstore chain. So it's interesting how they kind of play into that, and they actually address the numbers in this film too, like the realistic numbers, you know? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think that's an intentional detail
Yeah.
on Song's part, right? She wants you to know this woman makes 80 grand. She wants you to know their ages. She wants you to know that Harry lives in a $12 million penthouse. That comes up. Like it almost comes up like you're
Hmm.
keeping, as an audience member, you're keeping receipts, literally. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So he's a cater waiter. He's probably not making that much. Like you're already
Yeah, you're
basing the
doing the
worth.
math, right? Like
You're doing the math. You're going, oh, okay, he's not
the
making
math
that much
is
money. And
mathing. Yeah.
you know what I mean? So you are keeping receipts. And I think she did that intentionally.
Yeah.
Right. So to answer your question, I would pick John, Chris Evans, because, and I think this is what people were outraged about
Mhm.
is that in 2025, would any modern woman do this? I'm going to play devil's advocate and go, yeah, I would choose John, because
Huh.
one, I'm not in love with the other guy. I'm in love with John,
Yeah.
right? The reason why the relationship didn't work with John is the financial piece, is that they were both broke and struggling, right? So in the flashbacks showing the relationship in the movie, we
Hmm.
can see that they actually really care for each other. They love each
They
other,
had a deep
and that the
love for each
relationship,
other. Yeah.
yeah, the relationship was fairly sound otherwise. You know, it's just that they were both struggling, and I think in this context now, she's able to live fairly independently. Also, and I might have, maybe I'm reaching with this one, but I feel like John, because his whole thing is he's a waiter because he wants to be an actor. So
Yeah.
he's been trying to make his acting pop off. And so he's a dreamer. He's got um, goals and plans, and he's hit 30 now. He's in his 30s. And so what was maybe cute and sexy in their 20s, not so much in their 30s. But as we see in the movie, Lucy, Dakota Fanning,
Mm.
Dakota Johnson, excuse me, Dakota Johnson's character, she ends up choosing somebody that she feels sees her and
Yeah.
sees her intrinsic value. So for me, I would go John because I would be looking for, and I personally believe in marrying for love. And so it wouldn't
That's a
matter
crazy
unless
idea.
I was in love.
That's a crazy idea, but it just might work. All right.
I know. It's a crazy idea. Like if I loved Pedro Pascal and he happened to be flush, well, that's a different story. Then maybe all things considered, I would. But in this situation here, I have to answer honestly. I would go for the John. It's true. That doesn't sound
Okay.
right to say the
Wow. That
John.
was
Go for John, a character named John.
yeah, that's a great choice. And actually, in a recent interview, Dakota Johnson at a film festival, she responded to this question as well. And she said that it's a dilemma of choosing between a poor man you love and a rich man you don't. Because they end up, in the film, apparently, they realize that they're not in love with each other at a certain point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think she does. I think he's willing to explore the relationship a bit more, and he's certainly infatuated with her,
Yeah.
but not the deep love that's built over time.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's not in love with him. She's thinking about John when she's with Harry. So
Yeah, so that's what Dakota Johnson said in this interview. She says, the question is, do you fight for the life that you think you want, or do you fight for being
mm,
truly seen and truly loved, even if that means not having a certain amount of money or not having a certain amount of lifestyle? I thought that was really well said, too. Similar to what you
I
just said.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think that was beautifully said on her part. Right? It's like, yeah, are you choosing love or are you choosing comfort? And maybe this is a luxury that I can answer the way that I'm answering in 2025,
Mhm.
because maybe if I were answering this in 1955, it would be unthinkable. It would be like, no, of course I'm a housewife. I'm going to choose the person who can provide me with security. That might be a
Yeah.
completely legitimate response in a different period, but for me, as I am, like, uh, yeah, I'm independently living now, so I don't really need uh, a man's money, but it would be unthinkable to me to marry somebody that I don't love.
Fair. Yeah.
I just can't wrap my head around it. So yeah, that'll be my answer. But what about you, Drew? I'm very curious to flip this hot lamp on you because as a man, I mean, what say you? Like, are you yeah, what would you do? Same situation, exactly. Both people are um there's no problem, no issue, no one's like a terrible abuser or anything
Mhm.
like that. They're both
Okay.
great people, same situation, both attractive. You're, obviously have great chemistry with both, but who would you choose if one was, I don't know, well, I was going to say a billionaire like Rihanna, but I know you're choosing Rihanna, so let's not use her. Let's use just someone who's flush, and another person who you have the history with, the exact scenario.
The exact same scenario. Yeah, I'm choosing the broke. I'm choosing
You
brokey.
are.
All right, I'm choosing the brokey. All right.
You're choosing the broke broad. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Lotto doesn't
Okay.
want any brokey, but I don't mind a brokey. All right, as long as like the true love is
Okay.
there. The deep
Yeah.
love. That's what is going to stand the test of the time. Because you could lose all. He could lose it all too. He could lose all his money. You never know what life is going to throw at you too, as well. And it's not
Yeah.
like Chris Evans' character, like you said. It's not like he doesn't have aspirations and is trying to make it work. And has a dream. He's working towards. And that says a lot too. As long as they're passionate and trying to make it work, and that love is there. I would definitely choose the broke one in this scenario, the Chris Evans
Yeah.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. No, I mean, I'm not surprised. I do think there are also people right now probably screaming at us, going, "What?" And
Yeah,
I would love to hear their opinions as well. So feel
and
free, of
also
course.
I think a lot of those people who don't didn't like the end of the film. I think it's also because it's the age we live in with social media. A lot of people think that they're supposed to
Mm.
have a certain kind of life because of what it looks like on the internet, what they see on Instagram, what they see on TikTok. They think they should have that sort of lifestyle, and TikTok and social media enforces it, right? So a lot of people are already
Oh
kind of
yeah.
programmed
Wow.
for that they should have this type of lifestyle. And a rich person enables you to have that type of lifestyle so you can live your life like it's,
Mm.
gram. Yeah.
That's a great point. And I mean, that was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask you, right? And some, you know, is this movie
Yeah.
a realistic depiction of modern dating, like dating in 2025, right? So where they show the choice of choosing love over economic security.
Yeah.
But I think you're onto something there. So what I'm hearing you say is that you think that the bar has been set so high based on this image that we see of people on social media of like what love's supposed to look like, or like what our lives, if we're living our best lives, what those things are that should be part of it, the material trappings of it.
Yeah, the material trappings exactly. Having that, maintaining that lifestyle that you can share on social
Mm,
media. Have that instant gratification. That if you can't afford that lifestyle
mm,
yourself, you're gonna have to seek it from a partner potentially. And so to
yeah,
maintain that lifestyle on social, which is, people see on social media, and then you'd probably choose Pedro Pascal in that film. Yeah, yeah,
that's a great point. That's a great point. And I even think our options are often dictated by our lifestyle,
hmm,
right? Because if it's one hand on one hand it's one thing to look at someone living like their best life online and be like, oh
yeah,
yeah, I really want that, like cars, women, traveling the world, or whatever, makes sense for you based on who you are listening. But I also think it's that our access to a dating pool is dictated by our lifestyle.
yeah,
So
exactly.
what
Yeah,
you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is like either it's like, you know, you have to provide that lifestyle for yourself through hustling, grinding, right? Getting that bag, or you have to find someone who has that lifestyle and is willing
mhm,
then to invest in you. And I think that's absolutely, can't argue against that. I also think that the current lifestyle you have also dictates a lot of the options you may have to date in the first place. So, for example, like um, I would think somebody who we just spoke about, actually, I'm
okay.
reminded about a conversation I had with my brother, my little brother. I
Yeah.
should actually call him up. It would be hilarious if I called him and asked him to speak to this, because I know I'm going to butcher what he said. But
Okay.
basically, we were talking about Rihanna and how she ended up with ASAP Rocky,
Yeah.
right? And because a lot of people look at that relationship and go, "What?" I totally get it, by the way, why she's with Rocky. I 100% get why she's with Rocky. But
Yeah.
the reason why we were talking about it at the dinner table is because my brother Chris was saying she's a billionaire, so she has, and check this, fewer options dating, fewer options because she's a billionaire. There's
Hmm.
only so many billion, especially if, let's say, as a black woman, she wants to date another black man in the billionaires club who's also a celebrity. You can also roll with her lifestyle, understand her lifestyle, and see her for who she is and not the like, global star. That's very difficult. Like, I think he's adding the gender piece to it, is what my brother's saying. Is like, actually, she doesn't have as many options as you think. Of course she has all the options in the world, everybody wants to date her, but she really doesn't. Because if she wants to date, if in her mind she's dating for money, to be with an equal partner, then
Hmm.
her options are actually quite limited, right? She can
Yeah.
only date in the billionaire, circle. There's only so many people that she can date. Whereas if she goes and says, you know what, This guy, I've known him since 2012. This
Yeah.
guy's been a rock for me. I love being with this
No
man.
pun
He
intended.
sees me.
No pun intended.
To- uh, totally,
He's been a
totally.
rock.
Oh yeah, wow, I'm brilliant. We'll leave that in there. Yeah, and also, it's like this is my best friend,
Yeah.
right? She married, or not married. Well, they're partners for love. She went for love
She
because
did.
she could
Yeah.
have
She
been with the
did.
billionaire, right? She could
Yeah.
have stayed with the billionaire she was dating. I'm sure there are many billionaires in the circles that she's got access to now that would have been like, Rihanna, yes, please.
Yeah.
But she went for love, right? So I think she's a great example of this, of like a woman who has options
Yeah.
saying, yeah, no, I've got it. I've got it. I'm just not going to look for the person who I think I can spend my days with and I can like exhale with.
Yeah.
This person gets me. I totally get the Rocky thing. So I think that's an example of where your circle will also maybe potentially dictate who you can date. Because I think what my brother was trying to say, and I'll have to go back to him to ask him to clarify what he was saying. But he was saying, no, she's actually probably had her work cut out for her because to find somebody who doesn't see you as like Rihanna and
Yeah.
you're a billionaire, like that's harder. But he was saying, as a man, you're a billionaire. You have potentially more options actually
Yeah.
because traditionally, especially in a heteronormative Western society, well, in many societies, the man is the provider. That's a tale as old as time. So
Yeah.
if I am a billionaire man, I want to choose um, a partner. My options potentially are not as limited because, yeah, any woman is going to be initially drawn to, right, to the bank statement, of course, right. So there's a wide net. As a woman, I think this is something I've seen too, and I've heard people talk about this. Like, if you have a bigger bank account, if
Mhm.
you're well off, more status, not every man is going to be secure enough to date you, right? So there's going to be
Yeah.
that you have to contend with. The circle that you may have around you, depending on a number of factors, it could actually be harder to find somebody because everyone on paper says, oh, I would love to be with somebody who can take care of me.
Yeah.
But we're seeing this through, and again, in a heteronormative lens, a woman and a man, and the man having to be the provider. So I think that's why potentially a lot of people rejected this movie as well, because they were kind of thinking, in what universe would she choose John? Like, he can't provide for her. He can't take care of her. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? And I know to take that into like the universe that Rihanna, lives in,
Yeah.
that's not a direct comparison. I mean, she's not Lucy, but I do think it reminds me of, yeah, a lot of people question, why did she go for that guy? It's the same thing that happens. What I'm saying is, even though this is a different situation, fiction and life, I'm seeing a mirror there, and that she could have maybe had it. She had anybody.
Yeah.
Why did she go for that guy? Because I remember that conversation when they first got together too, without people understanding like how long he's been around, gravitating her, like kind of waiting it out. So
Mhm.
yeah, we see that. I see that the lifestyle you lead, the socioeconomic class that you're currently in,
Mhm.
can and will dictate the mobility you have in terms of dating. Because even on dating apps, or if you go and talk to people that are dating,
Yeah.
there are tiers and there are ways that people select based on a number of factors. In Toronto, and I'll
Exactly.
pass the mic to you in a second, the number one way that I find people do this, it's with one simple question. Can you guess what that question is, Drew?
Yeah. Who pays on the first date?
Okay, well, the two simple questions.
Too simple
Who
question is,
pays on the first day?
where are you going on your first date? You know, how much are you going to spend on your first date?
Yes. And what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah.
That's the first question that I hear people say. And I think it's twofold. I think one, probably you want to see or get a sense of what that person's about. Like if you're a creative versus if you're, I don't know, maybe like an accounting nerd.
Hmm.
I think people want to feel a sense of, if I know what you do, Eric, then I know who you are. I know how you roll. I know what your lifestyle's
What do
like.
you do?
And
Yeah.
that's one thing.
For work.
Yeah. And what you're going to be like potentially, but also I get a sense of, where are you? Are we going to be able to do things that I want to do? Like, what kind of lifestyle will that provide for me? And so if you're dating somebody that you know is a baller, very different understanding if they have a long title and you know a corner office than if I said, I don't know, and respectfully, like any kind of like service industry job might be seen as something where the cash flow is not always predictable, right?
Yeah,
So if I say like, yeah, I'm a server, nothing wrong with that, but someone might go,
yeah,
okay, okay, so I might have a sense of where you might sit in a socioeconomic, ladder. And I think people use that as well as a checklist,
yeah.
right? Check. Okay. Professional check. Okay. Money might not be coming in consistently. Okay. Free spirited artist type. Okay. Could be a check or it could be like a red flag. So I think that's another thing
Wow,
that comes up in this movie and also comes up when we talk about, it has to come up when we talk about the economics of dating
for
is
sure,
um,
it does.
what you
And
do.
I was like, I was reading this like there's a this quote. It was a paper by Moy Meester and Kathleen Vose, and they're talking about sexual economics and relationships. And
Hmm.
they're social psychologists, and their position that says that sexually like sexuality like relationships is a commodity with mating practices shaped by the background economic system. So basically what they're saying is that it's based men seek to acquire relationships from women by offering them resources in exchange. So it's very transactional, and these other resources include material support, you know, having a certain kind of lifestyle, which we talked about, housing, food, healthcare, and should make romantic decisions based on economic calculation rather than emotion. So, do you think that
Hmm.
women are, when they are, maybe when they match with someone or they meet with a potential mate, do you think they're asking these questions to do those calculations? You know, where are we going to go on our first date? Does that matter? Or what they do matters too, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had conversations with uh, some women who will flat out deny a due to date
Yeah.
based on the choice of the
They
location.
would
So I have
rather
a
be
girlfriend.
single. Would you rather be single than date, you know, Fergie and Ludacris from 2007? They said, if you ain't got no money, take your broke ass home. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we have so many, oh man, if we're going to dip into the musical, like, editorial on this, where there's so many songs that
Yeah.
talk about, looking for somebody, yeah, who's got money or, or actually the other side of things, like, thank you, Kanye, trying to avoid the gold diggers, right? So like, there's lots of people that have talked
Yeah.
about this, but
It goes both ways. Yeah.
I, yeah, I like that question. And not surprisingly, often, not always, but often it's women talking about, no scrubs. If you have no money, I think that's usually a problem for women because traditionally we have depended on the man to be the breadwinner. And
The
so it makes
provider, right?
sense.
They
Yeah. And I will also
traditionally were
add,
the providers. Yeah.
exactly. And I will also add that, we still don't make equal pay to men. So I know there are many men that are like, I don't understand this. If you're a feminist, then why am I picking up the check? And I think it's because I'll
Yeah.
give you the perspective that I've heard many women talk about. Well, firstly, I still don't make equal pay to you. Secondly, I probably went and got my hair done, my nails did. If I'm going to this date, like I'm already sinking in a lot of money into just, squeezing into some shapewear to get out here. So it's probably that aspect of the preparation that I think a lot of women also say, like,
Yeah.
hey, it takes a lot of money to look this good. Like yeah, I've already spent quite a bit of money to get out here. So the least you can do is, pick up the tab. I know we can definitely get into that and feelings around that. But to answer your question, because I want to go back to it, like, what have I heard where people who are dating have standards around where they'll go, what they'll accept?
Mhm.
100%. I have a girlfriend who's like, if a guy offers to take me to a cafe on the first date, like a coffee,
Yeah.
hell no,
That's a deal
because
breaker. Yeah.
that's a deal breaker for her because she already knows that like this is probably someone who's taking about 5 to 8 women out. He's trying to budget and
Hmm.
spend as little as possible. And probably as well, I've heard this from a number of women that have gone out and been burnt on these dates where the guy will have the audacity to actually then look for the person to chip in on the bill when it's like the bill is maybe not even $20. So
Yeah.
is that a problem? Maybe not, but I can understand people that might go and take that to
Yeah.
suggest that the person's frugal or, that maybe also it's a sign of something you were saying earlier about value, perceived value.
Perceived
And what I
value.
think this movie is also saying is like Lucy was interested in Harry initially. Well, one, he's a good looking guy. He's a great, he
Hmm.
seems like he's a catch on paper. And her job as a matchmaker was to find someone like a Harry, like a unicorn like a Harry.
She calls it a
And
unicorn, and she also does the calculations at one point too. She asks when they're at his place. She asks him how much do you
yeah,
pay per month,
yeah,
for this big
yeah.
lavish apartment. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's making the calculations in her mind because professionally, that's her job. Like the
Yeah.
whole premise in this movie, or the whole plot of the movie rather, was at this point, she's trying to make Harry a client. She's not looking to date him. Harry wants to date her. So that's how she got involved. She was looking at him like like a checklist, like, oh,
Transaction.
man, you're a great get for one of
Yeah.
my clients. And it's because he sees value in her. And I remember that scene really stands out to me. It was a beautiful scene with Dakota and Pedro, and they're in like a dimly lit restaurant. This may be like a second or third. Like they're
Okay.
feeling each other. They're in a cafe having a conversation. And at one point, she's kind of like, why are you interested in me? Like I don't, you and I don't make sense on paper. And it's because of what we were talking about the obvious difference in their, um, their status economically.
Hmm.
And he's like, but there's so much more to you than just, your job, how much you make. Like I mean, look at you. You're beautiful. You're smart. Great conversation. Like he's just naming all these things that she hasn't even thought to think about because she's only thinking about the on paper the transaction itself.
Oh, so
That A
she's
and
doing the
B.
calculations, but he explains to her, "I
Yes,
like you, right? I actually
yes. He actually likes her.
genuinely
He
like
likes
you."
her.
He's not
He's
thinking
like, I
about the
like you.
calculations. Yeah, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think then Lucy kind of realizes. This is probably about midway through the movie. She looks at him and she's like, oh, he likes me? Okay. Like I can see in her mind, she's going, oh, he is like stupid loaded and he sees value in me. So then, and this is actually a psychological thing too, actually. It's suddenly now he's looking pretty good because him having been established as someone who's of high value, if he likes me, that makes me feel valuable as well. So I think that's the
Mhm.
calculation that some people, I won't even say women, but certainly women, but some people are making when they're dating is
Yeah.
that if this person who I perceive to be a high status is interested in me, then, you know, that must be a clear sign that I'm a person of high status or I'm a
Mhm.
prize. Because we as women also often talk about and get a lot of rhetoric about you're the prize girl, don't let
Yeah.
any like that's what we hear. Like you are the prize. You should see yourself as the prize to be pursued, right? And no matter how far along we get, I mean, 5, 6, 7 years from now, I bet we're still gonna have that cultural residue. So I think as a woman, if a man that you perceive to be like high status, and in this case specifically fat wallet, is looking
Yeah.
at you, it's kind of like, okay, okay, like you sort of it gives you a sense of value. And I think that's one of the things that Celine was playing with in this movie
Yeah.
is the idea of, yeah, like are you dating because somebody sees your intrinsic value? Is that how you're dating in 2025? Or are you dating based on a checklist, based on someone's external value? And that's
Economic
the tension.
calculations. Yeah.
Yeah.
To your point, though, I think a lot of guys don't understand that when girls say like, "Oh, I wouldn't go." Like you said, you have a friend who, if the guy suggested the first date was a cafe, that would be a hard no for her. But
Hmm.
in a way, it's because it's like he doesn't see the value in taking me to a nice place almost for the first date, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
you nailed it.
yeah. So
Yes, you nailed it.
I
That's
think
the
that's what
that's
a lot of guys don't
yeah.
understand. Uh, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, but I just want to reiterate what you said because that's a hard mic drop. I didn't even walk it that way, but that's exactly it, right? It's basically suggesting that if the guy is not going to take me to a nice establishment, then he must not think I'm very valuable.
Yeah,
That's you're 100% right on that.
yeah,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
didn't put much thought into it either. You know, that's
Yes.
another part of it. I think too.
Right.
Like if we go to
Right.
a McDonald's or something
Exactly.
like
Like a
that,
McDonald's.
like there wasn't
I was
much
going to say that too.
thought put into
Right.
it, right? So I think that's part of it too.
Exactly.
But then when a guy hears that, it's just like, oh, this girl's a gold digger, right? And I think that's kind of like a lost in translation, maybe different perceived value.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's really interesting what you just said. And I've forgotten the question I was going to ask you. I'm sure it'll come back though, because they
Oh,
always do.
good.
But that's a great point. It's true. It's the perception because like, for example, if I, okay, so I have a friend who I'm not actually even sure why, but loves McDonald's. Like his whole, he has like a mission to like try like every McDonald's basically like in Ontario. So he like goes and tries a new. I don't know. I actually don't know why he does this,
Does he have a
but
favorite McDonald's? What is the best McDonald's in all of it? I don't know.
right. And I'm sure if I ask this person, he's going to say it's the one over at Bathurst and for the Toronto locals. But I, if he were to take a lady to McDonald's,
Hmm.
it on paper it doesn't for many probably doesn't look right. However, if he explained, let's say it's me, if he explained to me, I'm taking you here because
Yeah,
this place is really important to me. It's different for me. Then now suddenly there's context and there's thought because before you were saying it feels sometimes like there's no thought. It's a thoughtless
yeah,
gesture.
yeah.
That's the problem. And it's like I could be interchangeable with any other woman that's sitting here, and no
Exactly.
woman wants to feel like that. So it's the antithesis of what we were talking about before, where the person feels valued for who they are and really seen. So I think that's the issue. I think if one of the with issues, it's not even the place, but it's what the place represents for
Yeah,
somebody that will make it either a really touching, thoughtful gesture, or oh, you're wasting my time. You know
for
what I
me,
mean?
it's
Like
more about the
that's
experience and the thoughtful, value that you put into planning this date. Maybe it's less about how much money you're spending. And I actually I looked on ChatGPT. The average cost of a date in the U.S. is around $189. In Canada, it's
mm.
173 per date. So
Oh
that's
wow, okay,
interesting. Yeah. And
that is
considering you're going
interesting.
on, if you go, maybe if
Hmm.
you go on one date a week for
I
in the month,
know.
you're spending almost $1,000. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I mean, we talked about this a bit offline, but I think you were saying men that have spent or they allot like $1,000 per month for
Yeah.
dating, right?
Thousands. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's yeah. I mean, I guess that's the cost of admission, right? Like, I feel like one thing we're talking about the dating process and actually meeting somebody that you actually like spending time with is one thing, and then when you actually do meet that person there's still I mean, you're dating, you're still doing things, you're still experiencing things, right? So I think that is one of the reasons, in my personal opinion, and I'm sure there's an article online that I can back up this feeling
Yeah.
with, but when you talk about the economics of dating, we obviously know that Gen Z in particular, a lot of them are just saying, you know what? forget this. Like I'm done with the apps. I'm done swiping. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like they're just choosing celibacy. Many of
I'd
them are like,
rather be
forget this.
alone and, happy and
Yeah.
doing whatever you're doing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how much of that do you think is, attributed to the reality of, economics, like society right now? I mean, times are tough for people. Do you think the current reality that they're living is part of the reason why they're doing this?
It's tough. I know someone who refuses to date for the simple fact that they say they can't afford it. They can't afford to take a girl out. And it's, yeah, things have increased for sure. The economics of dating has definitely gone up for sure. But I also think, and I think it shouldn't be like when it feels, it's also a feeling too, right? When it feels right, it shouldn't be that hard. And it should be more based on emotion rather than just these calculations, because that really doesn't matter in the end. And I mean, yes, you definitely have to put some thought into these dates. You definitely have to, go out on a nice date for sure. But that could even be like a simple date. As long as the thought is there,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it should be easier than a lot of people think it is. And I was reading about not to bring it back, materialists again. But with that drink she orders, it's a very easy drink, like you said. Like you can get that anywhere. You can get
Mm-hmm.
a Coke and a beer
Mm-hmm.
anywhere. And Chris Evans says in the movie that when he's talking about love, it's the easiest thing. And it's just
Mm.
like a drink that she orders. It's easy, right? And I think that's what love should be. It should be easy. It shouldn't be all this hard, calculations of what matters and how much the date costs and all that stuff. I think it should just be more of a feeling and definitely thought put into it. But I think it should be more like Chris Evans says in the film. It should be easy. Yeah.
Now let's unpack that. I think that's really interesting what you said. Um, love should be easy. What do you mean by that?
I think that like it should just well he comes from I think his background in his character in the film is like a romantic dreamer, and they obviously broke up
Mm-hmm.
fast over his uh, frequent poverty, I guess, and
You're right.
frequency of
Yeah.
poverty. But I think it's just like in the end they do get back together because it is easy between them. It's that feeling and it's that nostalgia that has they just ran into each other years later at this wedding, and the feeling is still there. I think it should just come naturally, and it should be easy, and it shouldn't be based on all these economic conditions, and
Mm.
that's not what really matters at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad you spoke on that a little bit more, because I think one of the other things that's very obvious in this movie is the conversation around convenience and dating. And
Yeah.
one of the things that the character sees time and time again, her role as a matchmaker, is that there's a lot of people that will throw away, like her clients will throw away potential suitors
Yeah.
because they're not convenient, because they're not easy, or because there's an aspect of like, I don't like that aspect of it. But the person, it's
True.
like 9/10 of your check. But that one thing there, I don't like that. Go back and find someone else. So this
True.
idea of like, yeah, that there is a endless supply of suitors out there, which
Yeah.
of course, is definitely exacerbated by the prevalence of dating apps, because people are swiping like they're shopping. So I don't like this one. Let this one. Do you have it in a redhead? Like it's that kind of thing where it's
Yeah.
people become like merchandise, and so
Easily
it's a little bit
disposable.
easier.
Yeah. Easily
Totally. And so if
disposable. Yeah.
totally, so if someone is not easy, my personal opinion, I think because you're right, I don't think it should be a tireless chore to date somebody. But if people are not easy, it's like, I'm out of here, man. Like there's got to be
That's true.
someone
That's a
better,
good
and
point.
that's a
Yeah.
problem, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. very much represented this movie, and a lot of the key scenes there talk about this. I do want to talk about maybe one more thing
Yeah.
before we start to wind down here, but I think this conversation is really fascinating because there's so many angles we could pick apart here. But I also think that this idea of like emotional like capitalism,
Hmm.
this commodification of people, I think it's also intersecting right now with this black cat dating archetype that's trending right now. And for those who may not know that, it's the idea that like a black cat is somebody who's a little bit more independent, mysterious, who's selectively affectionate. It's you're basically the person who's pursued and chased. And
Yeah.
then that black cat usually goes with the golden retriever, who is like the more friendly partner, affectionate, like doubting partner. And I think a lot of people who may be watching this movie, because earlier you said that we're being basically socialized to perceive that our lives should be a certain way, that love should be a certain way. I mean, I watch a lot of dating reality shows, so obviously, like, I'm also drinking a lot of the same Kool Aid.
Exactly.
But
Through social media and through,
right,
reality dating shows, TV, entertainment, yeah, movies, yeah.
totally, totally. I mean, love is an endlessly fascinating and mysterious concept. Why people love who they love is a question that we will be asking ourselves for time eternal. But the black cat thing. So the black cat thing here, I think in this movie, one of the reasons why I think people also may have inadvertently rejected it is because on paper anyways, it's like, okay, maybe Dakota actually would be the black cat in this situation. So
Hmm.
she was being pursued by Chris. Chris, in this case, was more like the golden retriever. So that actually makes sense. But maybe there's some people that would be thinking, like, huh, why would, if so, she went for Pedro Pascal would have been more the black cat, and she would have been more the golden retriever. So
Hmm.
it's actually in my mind, she did the thing that I think on paper made sense. But for people dating in 2025, they would think it would be the opposite. But this whole black cat thing that I'm seeing trending online is showing examples of couples where you have the wrong flow of energy, where it's like, let's bring up Rihanna again. I swear, I'm not trying to do this intentionally, but she just had some public relationships. So like Rihanna and Rocky clearly the retriever, Rihanna the black cat who's
Okay,
pursuing
yeah,
her. Okay, and like kind
that
of
makes sense.
mysterious,
Yeah.
alluring, right? And then in the case of Rihanna and Chris Brown, a lot of people would say that didn't work because in that case she was the retriever and he was the black cat, and
Oh
she was kind
wow.
of right, and she was kind of doubting on him. And so again, it plays with gender norms and stereotypes about
Hmm.
who should perceive whom. But in many cases too, it's that personality trait, right? Where it's like, yeah, that makes sense to me. When I thought about it, I was like, oh, that's so true. In a way, like I can think of many couples, many celebrity couples that fit that mold. And so I bring it up now just because
Hmm.
I think some people might say that the movie makes no sense, who she chose made no sense. And then on one hand, there's also a lot in the zeitgeist right now that would lead us to believe, no, actually, if we believe in love and we're being force fed all of these kind of like
Hmm.
romantic gestures in movies and reality TV, it's interesting to me that people were up in arms about this choice, but
Yeah.
actually, like it's not a love positive choice, right? So I think that's very interesting. Not only does the movie fit with this kind of black cat archetype, but it makes sense from a romantic standpoint. So
Yeah.
I wonder if our society is just romance starved. If that's why we're so transactional about it now with our checklists, that we've just completely beaten the romance out of the whole scenario. That when we see romance on the screen, we just think it's just too much fiction. I
It's like
wonder
the,
about that.
the math is not mathing for us, right? In the end,
It's nothing. Yeah. Hmm.
definitely not
I
mathing.
do wonder.
Yeah.
I do wonder about that.
So,
Yeah. I mean,
well,
it's an
speaking
interesting
of
thing.
mathing, do you think the guy should pay on the first date, or I think it should be the bill should be split on the first date?
Truthfully, I think who did the asking?
Okay, so all it comes down to who asks the other person out for the date. Yeah. Okay.
Well, in a
So the man
way, I mean,
usually is the man. Let's say so. The man, if the man
precisely,
asks, or
precisely.
the male role in the relationship asks the person out, they should pay, right? Whoever asks out the other person should pay. Yeah.
Look, as archaic as it sounds, I'm just gonna say it. If you ask me on a date, and I hope on the first date, I hope you'll pay for it. I
Yeah.
hope you will. But at the same time, I'll make the gesture. I'll do the reach. I'll do the reach.
You'll
But
do.
I do think that I do want the guy to pay. And if people are gonna go, what? You've just been talking about modern women and dating, da, 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 but you want the guy to pay? Yeah, I want the guy to pay because I actually think I will shout a guy too. I will pay for a guy. I will. I know I have a lot of friends who are like, you are crazy to do that, Antoinette. I will if I've asked you out or if I know I'm going to, like, we've established a bond and I'll shout for this round and you shout for the next round. I do think if you get into a long term relationship, you have to look at um, logically, well, you kind of have a sense of like, how's this person doing? Are we sort of, equally financially independent? Is this
Mm.
person, have they been laid off recently? In which case, then one might argue maybe they shouldn't be dating. But apparently, for me, I think it's just a logical thing. Like the first date, yes, I do. I'm much more old school, I think, in that respect. I do want the guy to pay on the first date. I think it's a
Mhm.
nice gesture. I think it also shows, in my mind, I'll put it this way. I have been, and I can remember this date in the past where the guy went for to reach, and I know I got this, and I reached for it because I didn't want there to be any debt. Like I was not interested at all. And
Oh yeah,
sometimes the idea that if I pay for this,
yeah.
it's such an antiquated idea, but there are people, full stop, who do think this way. Like, hey man, I paid for this date. I dropped the $172, as you say, right, on this dinner and stuff. At the very least, like I hope that this means that I'm going to see you again, or I hope that that means that I'm at least going to I'm going to get rewarded in some way. There are people that do think like that. So for me, when I
Yeah,
haven't been interested, I've sometimes just said, here's my half of the bill. Like seriously.
totally. Yeah,
So yeah, I don't know. There's no right or wrong here, although I'm sure there'll be many of our listeners who go,
yeah,
no, there is a right and there's a wrong. And actually, you should never take your wallet out. And I just think it depends on the circumstances. And I think as you get into a longer term relationship, if you are living with someone, for example, do you expect the man to pay for your rent? Do you expect him to pay for all the bills?
all
Like,
the bills.
no,
Yeah,
I would
all
want an
everything.
equal,
Yeah.
but I want an equal partnership. So it depends on who you are. If I didn't want an equal partnership and I'm like, look, I will do certain things in this relationship um, if you pay for everything, then I think that kind of mentality, I'm not even judging it. Like, I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum if that's how you want to set up the relationship. There may be what I guess I'm trying to come around to say with my previous anecdote. There may be a cost anyway. You're paying some way. It's just a matter of how are you paying, right? So in my mind, I find when I find people that are like, I'll bankroll this entire thing for you as long as you continue to look good, don't gain any weight, stay exactly the same way you look good at all times, look pretty, we're good. I'll bankroll this whole thing. But there's also a,
Mhm.
sort of tacit agreement there if you're going to have that kind of relationship too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's interesting.
you
Yeah.
know, you're going to pay. So I think even with men, it's like, even if you don't pay, you're going to pay somehow. It's just a matter of what's the cost of admission in this particular relationship or what is it worth to you. So
Hmm.
I think I would want to have an equal partnership. So yeah, first date, simple, yes or no answer. Please pay. Please at least take your wallet out because I've heard women say that they have been on dates with people
Yeah.
who don't have the money to pay for the date, or I've heard ridiculous. I think these are like old wives' tales or like urban legends, but
Wow.
I've heard this before that they've been on a date with somebody and the person was like, "Oh man, I forgot my wallet, right? Could you pay for it?" And I think there's a lot of this where people are trying to be um, strategically frugal or
Mhm.
they're not generous. And I think that's what it is for me. It's like the generosity, the value behind it is the generosity. Like
Mhm.
even if it's a big bill, if you like someone took me to George once. It's a Toronto restaurant. It's pretty pricey. First date, I was like, I don't I don't even know you. Right. So to me, actually, it actually turned me off because I
Hmm.
was like, I don't know you. So that means you just kind of do this. This is like your usual table. They all know what to
Oh yeah,
bring. The
yeah.
staff
That
knows you.
this is the move.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's a move, And I was like, okay, some people may not care about that. For me, I might actually, for me, anyways, it was a turn off. I just felt, and
Okay.
this person felt and expected that I would put out, or like at the very least, like I should be able to at least get a grab like that. That's literally the mentality this person had. So,
Wow.
um, it's not to suggest that's everybody, but I do think
Yeah.
there is, there's context and nuance sometimes around who's paying for what. But I also think I'm someone who, like you said earlier, it's not about the tab, right? Like
It's not.
you can
There's no
find
minimum
ways.
spend, right?
Yeah, a cheap and cheerful date. You might not have to spend any money. Like some of the best dates, in my opinion, you don't have to spend anything. It's like take me somewhere, like sit on a park bench with me for an hour. I'll know if we're compatible. Because if
Right.
like if you can't keep that interesting and like I'm just begging for it to be over, like that can be a beautiful date too. Like take me to the lake and let's just sit and just chat. Now that might be for some people, they're going, ew, what kind of
Right.
that's not me, Antoinette. And that's fine. You know what type of person you are. But like for me, I can see situations where the person who's bankrolling this lavish lifestyle, I mean, that might not mean anything. That might not be unique to you at all.
Exactly.
Or that might be the only thing they feel they can contribute to, right? So it
Exactly.
depends. But
And
yes, pay for
also,
the first date, please.
you're meeting this person for the first time. If you're meeting them from a dating app, you don't know this person yet, right? So it's just like
Mhm.
you don't even know if there's going to be a romantic connection, or if you're not going to get along with this person. So I've heard someone told me there is a rule of dating where you should for the first date. They said that there's these first date rules that they live by, which it should be not on a weekend. All right, it should be during the week. It should be only an hour, and it should be something low key, like I don't know, going for a walk or a cafe or something like that. And there should be a window, because if it doesn't work out, if you don't want to be even around this person, you don't know, then you've already set up that expectation for the date. I don't know. That's what they told me.
Oh, okay. Well, they talk a lot, don't they? I think so. You mean if you set up the expectation from the first date, then like every other date has to be like that,
No, I mean,
or
like,
grander?
for the first date, because you don't know this person, their rules are that it should be a limited time, and it shouldn't be something like,
Hmm.
for example, a dinner, for example, because then you have to sit across from this person at dinner, and even if you don't really want to talk to them or get to know them on any level,
Mm,
then you're already committed to that. So this way, it's just like it's a low key meetup for only an hour or 2 hours, and then you're gonna go somewhere else after that. It's kind of like that's what they told me about these rules. But for the first date, I'm saying this is a first date rule they have. But yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. I know lots of people that have that rule, and I think that whatever works. I mean, especially if you have to manage multiple dates, like then you have to be mindful of that's what you have to give. I personally, yeah. I mean, I've experienced, the ones where it's like, oh my gosh, like, no, let's not do dessert. Like, please, let's just get the check. Like,
Right?
I've
Exactly. Like,
definitely been there. Like, please don't order
what
dessert. Are
if
you
it's not
insane?
going
Like,
well, right? Exactly.
right. Like, what date are you on? But then at the same time, I think, and this is where, again, I don't know. I might be an outlier. I do know at least one other person who agrees with me on this, a friend of mine. But for me, I don't put a stipulation around the date. Like,
No.
I don't put all these rules around it. Who am I dating? It depends on who I'm dating and
Yeah.
depends on the circumstances of the date. And I think it is a good rule, though, that they have given you in terms of like, make it only an hour, make it a coffee, make it low commitment, make it low pressure. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing low pressure
Low
so
pressure.
that you
Yeah,
can
that's
just
fair.
go as
Yeah.
cash. Yeah, that's cool. I totally agree with that. Like whatever that looks like for that person or for that couple. And yes, you don't know this person. You're right. You just like maybe you swiped on somebody and you're now having a you're having a discovery call to see if this person is somebody that you want to like have another conversation with. So I always think like, do I just want to have another conversation with this person?
Yeah.
Ergo, and this is where I might be again a bit of an outlier. I actually think if the date goes beyond the hour and you don't realize it, and you're like, oh my god, it's been like a few hours. Like that might not be everybody's bag, but I actually like the date that rolls into an like another activity. I like that when it's like, let's do
Yeah.
something else, or like I'm just gonna go check out this music store or bookstore or whatever. Like, do you what are you up to? And like that's a good sign because then I can kind of see what it would be like to just be with that person
Yeah.
when they're not like suited and booted in like a date mode, when they're just
Right.
doing
Exactly. Yeah.
whatever, running errands, and like what does that feel like? And also if they're like, I gotta go, that's totally fine because like they have a life and other things to do. But how they respond to that will also be very telling because if they're like, oh, I gotta go, like I've got another appointment. It's like, okay, so you're meeting another broad in like an hour at the like across the street. So like it could be that. It could be that like I've just got a life and I've got other things I gotta do. Cool. It could be that they're like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Maybe they're more spontaneous, and that will also show me something. There's no harm or foul in saying no, I got to roll. But if the person is
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's do that. Let's go do that
When
thing.
it's easy
Like
like that,
then
that's the best sign.
it's like,
Yeah, and
yeah,
like I'm the same way. I want the date, just to flow naturally, right? And I do believe that whoever asks out the person, which is typically the man, asking out the woman, and that the man should pay for the bill. And I do believe in like putting effort into dates, putting some thought into it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a certain minimum amount of money spent, but you should definitely put some thought into it for sure, and show value in the person you're trying to get to know. Yeah.
oh, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's one of the takeaways that we have from this movie, right? Is that for everybody who maybe went into it and really loved it, it
Yeah.
could be as simple as like we're projecting what we feel about romance and modern dating onto this movie and onto the character's choice ultimately, right? So if you're a romantic, maybe you look at Lucy's choice and you go, yeah, of course. What other way could this movie end? And if you're more pragmatic, maybe less into the sort of I don't know, Hallmark sort of sold idea of love, then you might also go, yeah, that's stupid. Why would you do something like this? So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot you can discern from your own reaction to this movie too.
Or you might be like, why can't I be around Pedro Pascal when he has anxiety, right? When he has all the anxiety, you could. When he has anxiety, he definitely is very touchy feely for sure. Yeah.
Well, is he touchy feely or are the women around him touchy
Or
feely?
maybe it's the other way around. Yeah. Maybe it's a mutual. It's probably a mutual thing too. Yeah. It's probably a mutual.
Maybe. I know when I've seen him with his castmates,
Yeah.
and Dakota Johnson definitely being one of them.
Yeah.
Very, very affectionate, very touchy feely. But it also looks like a lot of the women can't keep their hands off of him. So maybe, hey, this is a dating strategy, maybe 101. It's like if you happen to be someone who's soothed by touch, if you're an anxious person, then hey, maybe this is all you need to do is just tell your date that you're a little bit anxious and that touch like helps, and that's a good litmus test to see if
That
yeah,
is
if you
to
have
see
any
if you're a
connection or
match.
chemistry.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, not the worst thing in the world, I guess, for either party involved, because I guess that's one way of doing it. I mean, there's so many different angles with this movie. I think
Mhm.
it's been a really interesting conversation. I personally think also too that one of the things that I take away from this movie is watching it. I will say shout out to Celine Song for giving us this amazing conversation because we are talking about the movie. It's creating a lot of discourse. I think that's what art does, and I also realized too that everyone in the movie is north of 30, like in their mid 30s up. Like Pedro Pascal is north of 40. He's in his 40s. The two other characters, Lucy and John, are in their 30s. And so I also thought, I wonder, because in the theater around me, I heard a lot of, there was a group of young girls. I have to put them at Gen Z, maybe even Alpha, but they were howling like when they saw the end because they're like, as if, and they were openly mocking the character and like blasting the theater with obscenities about her choice. I thought it
Wow.
was hilarious. Most of us were laughing at these girls because they were very loud and they were very vocal and they were young. I could tell they were young. But here's the thing I'm thinking about. I didn't really consider this until, you were talking earlier about the whole social media and, evidence that that's also permeating our ideas around romance. Yeah, no doubt. Because if like if I'm a younger person, I was thinking about this like teen drama versus characters that are a bit older. What was refreshing about watching older people um, is the same reason why I find it refreshing to watch like The Bachelor and see like older people because they date differently. They're
Yeah.
more straight to the point. Like, okay, what do you do? Okay, you talk about those things. Even them talking about finances. I don't remember talking about finances at all when I was dating when I was younger. It was not a consideration. It was like this person's cute. They find me cute. I think they're cute. It's on. That was really
Yeah.
it. And like did you have to go much further if the person had a great job at Taco Bell? Awesome. Like that's why maybe it didn't land for these ladies because in their mind they're thinking, what, why would anyone do this? But for maybe mature audience, they might actually look at it and go, yeah, that makes sense. Or maybe I'm totally out to lunch, and a much more mature audience might go, no, based on my experience dating, I would choose the person who's flush, who can provide a good lifestyle for me. So I think millennial audience, for me in that curve, like this movie didn't disturb me as much as it may have disturbed some of the Gen Z and Alpha crowd who are looking
Yeah.
at
It could
it,
be a
thinking
generational
about
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
totally. And if they're watching teen dramas, well, teen dramas, this is not the type of stuff that happens. And teen dramas, to your point, Andrew, like they're full of drama. That's why we often get love stories, I think, about teenage years because they're the formative years. You're still figuring yourself out. It's devoid generally of the unsexy conversations around money. It's more the period
Yeah.
itself is about finding you yourself, finding your group, your people, and finding somebody who sees you and there's a lot more romanticized I don't know, like meet cutes and
Yeah.
things that were not present in this movie. This movie was just stripped of all of that. It was a reflection in the mirror of what's happening in modern dating, in my opinion. So maybe that's why people were like, this movie sucked. It was not what I thought it was going to be because it didn't give me the dopamine hit that I get when I'm watching like Gossip Girl. You know what I mean? Like, of course not. They're talking about adult stuff. They're grown people, right? So
Yeah.
like, I think that's
Exactly.
something else too.
Having those mature conversations, right? Those real conversations. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not sexy and doesn't hit the same way on screen, maybe, but they're not pumped full of hormones. You know what I mean? So they're not going to have the same conversations with the same sort of, um, I don't know, events happen. Like it's like I went out with this person, great, liked them, didn't like them, okay, see ya, next. That's literally how the conversations with her clients went. I was like, that guy was great, too bald though. Get me somebody who's over
Yeah.
6'1" and not bald and not a baldy. Like it was literally that direct in her script. So I
Okay.
think people were probably like, what? But that's what they're doing when they're swiping. So it's kind
Exactly.
of a unsexy mirror. And I think some people didn't like looking into it.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
That's a good
you
point.
know? Yeah, but hey, let us know, I guess. Tell us right after you like, subscribe, and do all the things that help a podcast grow. After you do all those things, then go over and maybe comment on YouTube or leave us a comment on our Instagram about what you thought about The Materialist if you've seen it. And what did you think about the conversation tonight? We'd love to hear from you. And I think on that note, Andrew, over to you. So tell the people how they can talk to us.
Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us on Instagram at culture_alchemy. We want to keep the conversation going.
We absolutely do. As always, I will say until next time, alchemists, stay
Stay
curious.